I tell people like I do, through my platform all the time, like this is just the information age. If you're passionate and you want to learn and you want to know how to do something, the biggest gift I think I've got is I just am obsessive researcher, and um, the information's out there. If you want to Google something and sort through the bullshit to find the real stuff that's applicable to what you're trying to accomplish, it's never been so easy.
You're listening to the Art and More podcast with your hosts, Nathan and B.R. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience, and B.R. is a British anarchist that moved to the States. Both are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm B.R. I'm joined by my co-host Nathan.
Hello.
Who is slowly collapsing because he is now distant from the Canadian healthcare system.
Oh man, no! It's not like Canada would have helped me with this. I just
no, they would have just given you. They would just would have put a gun in your mouth at the waiting counter.
Actually, just immediately, a nurse comes out and just stabs me full, like with a syringe full of something that would make my head explode. I don't know.
I have a toothache. Oh, would you like euthanasia, sir? Anyway, we are joined by Mr. Mark Bonnalie of Modern Rural Civilian. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
This is an episode we've been meaning to do for a minute, and it's the kind of episode that I think is like really the crux of this show. Like away from all of the, what a lot of people see on the gram as like sexy, like the flat range, running around, what's the best camo, what's the best AR, blah, 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 night vision. Like, no. Ladies and gentlemen, what is actually sexy is independence, a good partner by your side, and a beautiful homestead that you're putting your life into. And Mark, what you're doing is just incredible. Every single time one of your posts come up in my feed, I'm like, that's the good stuff. A little dose of wholesome amidst a sea of bleh.
I appreciate that, BR. It's I get seduced by the other side of everything just the same as all of us, But it really is. There's a place for all of this self-sufficient life living, and I didn't set out to try to be that guy, but it sort of fits the mold now. You're seeing a lot of the tactical world turning towards the self-sufficient homestead world, and things blending together. So I'm thrilled. I love my life, and I love what's happening, and the further along that we get, the more comfortable life seems to be. So happy that the homesteading movement is what it is today, and the internet is really taking notice.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Like we're seeing ever more warriors in the garden. Like every single time I see a guy who is, like they were super driven about getting squared away with all their kit and all their prepping and blah blah blah, and now you see them like, that final really key component to prepping and living the good life is, securing some property and settling down and just doing the thing that we're really, I think, naturally meant to do. And you just see like their spirits lift and their, days and weeks, months of hard labor on their property, and it's like not a single regret ever. I don't hear anyone ever go, man, buying some property and trying to become independent, what an awful idea this was.
No, it's one of the most literally best decisions that Heather and I have made. I'll be honest with you guys. I was actually, we had a pretty nice place in town, just about 30 miles away from where we bought our acreage, and I had just built a brand new shop, and at the time I had a little small business where I restored vintage Airstream travel trailers.
That is weirdly interesting, and also explains where all the trailers in your property came from.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my moneymaker for a long time, and I set out to start this business thinking it was going to be a restoration business, and what wound up happening, which was just like the blessing of fate, but it turned into more of like a hunting for these things out in the country, just driving the back roads of rural America and knocking on doors and buying them. And I developed a lot of clients down in Southern California that already had successful restoration shops. And so I just wound up literally buying these things, like hunting the countryside for them, buying them, and then always including my delivery fees into the sale price of the trailer. So I didn't really restore the trailers. I just would deliver them to other restoration shops. And at that time, I built a little micro camper in the back of my vintage Ford pickup, and I just lived sort of this van life, nomadic sort of traveling the world or traveling the country lifestyle for a number, probably basically since about 2019 until 2018 till 2021, and
Mm.
I got to see every off the beaten path, area of the country, at least the western side of the country, and it was all on my own for the most part. Heather would come with me when she was available, but back to what I was saying. I just built a brand new shop out in the sort of the back 3/4 of the acre of the city lot that we had, and only began to work on one Airstream trailer when Heather came to me and said, the real estate market's really going crazy. I think we could sell this whole place and buy acreage in the country like we've always really dreamed of. And it took, as I guess embarrassed as I am to say, it took some real convincing on her
Really?
part. Yeah, I mean, it was always the big dream, but I was just really tunnel vision on the current goal at hand, which was making something out of this vintage trailer business. And so yeah, once again, best decision that we've ever made, and I can even imagine being back on that street, on that lot, in that big nice house that we had at the time, because life was just 180 degrees different.
Huh. Like, I mean, for one, that sounds like a pretty good gig, not even having to do the restoration. Like, your job was just being good at talking to people, right?
Yeah, I was
Like,
just
more or less.
knocking on knocking on doors of strangers out in the middle of nowhere. And I've always I've always I've always felt comfortable communicating with people, and never been too bashful when it comes to being upfront and honest about what I'm trying to do. And
Yeah.
so there was a lot of people that were like, you're gonna knock on the wrong door in the wrong desert in the wrong place, and I'm never gonna see you again. But I always had awesome stories to tell, and uh, yeah, like the self-sufficient stuff really started back then for me, because I tried to I tried to build everything that you'd find in a $150,000 Sprinter van into the back of my 1964 Ford pickup, um, and so it was a completely different look of like, the van life, sort of traveling the country. But that in a big way was I just would take probably 3 or 4 weeks return trip once I dropped the trailer off, had a pocket full of money, and I would just man, travel the Southwest. I really got into a lot of ancient ruins, like a lot of Native American ruins and stuff like that. I've always been
Yeah.
attracted to, um, well, the
That's
rock.
really cool, actually.
Yeah, it was a cool period of life. I got to learn and live a whole bunch, and it kind of, the timing was perfect when Heather sort of said, we could get rid of this place and start over fresh. Once again, it was a little bit hard for me to swallow just at that moment, because I was really living pretty freely and happily. But everything comes to, one chapter closes and the next begins, and this I wouldn't. I say it almost daily, but I just wouldn't trade back a single day for what we've got now, and it's not easy what we've got now. It's a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of hard work, and a lot of sort of turning down friends to go do fun stuff all the time, because there's so much work to be done to try to keep on pace to getting out of these campers and into a real home.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful struggle though, man. I wouldn't trade back any of it, and absolutely love this homestead life. And yeah, man, I'm always trying to sort of coerce the followers into selling everything and starting over fresh because it's a big leap to take, but it's there's just this circle of life sort of feeling to creating a water system that now nourishes your family and your property, or creating a garden and being able to store that food all year, and there's just this more wholesome connection to life that I just had never experienced before this homesteading adventure. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
The water I had at your place, holy crap. It was good.
Mountain spring water, right?
Like mountain spring water. It was incredible.
It's Heather calls it living water. She and I think there's probably a definition for living water, but it's unbelievable. Every time I'm down working in it and touching it, I'm taking swigs of it constantly. It's almost like a drug all of its own.
Yeah, it sounds like you really traded one kind of freedom for quite another, like being a nomad for kind of having such rich security in where you call home every single day and what you put all of your time and love into.
Absolutely. Yeah, the freedom is still here, but the decisions are so much different now. I guess it's probably been coming on 2 years now that I sort of I had an entirely different social media platform name back then as the Highwayman, and it was fitting for my life at that time, but I was still posting under that in the first, I don't know, probably the first 6 months of now working on the property, and I found myself like, I don't even like to leave the acreage, let alone go anywhere. So this really doesn't fit anymore, and that's when I sort of brainstormed and rebranded and came up with Modern Rural Civilian. And man, I don't even know what to say since then. The number of people who have sort of joined in and jumped on that bandwagon is unreal, and it's still just it still is humbling, to say the least.
Well, that's something I wanted to touch on, and it's like your follower count is wild, and follower counts, it's all like dopamine hits and all that kind of thing, but at the same time with things like this, like that is a very real sign of the times.
Yeah,
like I mean on Instagram alone, what was it? Something silly. 689K right now, but
you're gay.
What?
You're gay.
Why? What did I do?
Sorry, go on.
No.
Nathan, always here for the comedy. Thank you.
Yeah, just blindsided you, man.
Fucking asshole. my esteemed co-host, ladies and gentlemen, helping me seamlessly interview people. Like 3 years now.
3 years. Art and War. Professional podcasters, you're welcome.
100 more episodes. Okay.
Yes. 100 years.
Love it.
100 years Art and War.
Also,
you got something else?
Sorry, I feel like I threw your train of thought entirely.
Yes, social media, gay, agreed. But at the same time, like you're seeing this massive movement of people who are like flocking to kind of waking up to what the good life is and kind of getting out of that material mindset, or at least beginning to get out of that materialist mindset where they're like, I could actually just live a more natural life. Like, you've got other social media platforms outside of Instagram, right?
Yeah, pretty much every one of the every one of the top names. And it's all the same content. You know, I don't do anything special for any particular platform. I just create my
Pick your poison.
Yeah.
create my content and share it across 5 different platforms. And uh, the ultimately, you know, like the goal is, and I'm always getting sort of tried to nipped in the ass to get going on it, but long form content on YouTube is the ultimate goal for what I'm trying to do. But
Yeah.
I just like a writer who's been writing something short stories for years on end. I seem to have a block in getting from the short form shit into at least learning the editing side of long form content and but that ultimately
Yeah.
that's
It's difficult.
it's weird. It shouldn't, you know, maybe it sounds a little excusey, but I really do. And then the other part of it is really like I'm really actually just trying to do shit here on the property.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, not sit in front of a computer for like
yeah,
6 hours
yeah,
making you working on the property look perfect.
yeah. That's the hard part. So it's I don't know if I've fallen victim to the to short form just coming easier to me, so it's easier to maintain it while I'm still actually working every damn day. But ultimately, I would love to step away from the big names of social media platforms and get into more yeah, just some longer form content that just longer form YouTube would be awesome. But you know, we'll see. I've been saying that for years.
Special thanks to our newest sponsor of the show, Americana Pipedream. We're excited to shill for our favorite Zuma Surplus team. I'm an AP customer myself, having picked up a British smock and woodland DPM, aka Dead Queen's Plaid, from them. This saved me from making a trip back to that grim island, or paying European shipping rates. Thanks, Americana Pipedream. Like, seriously. Whether you're looking for Eurotrash camo gear to LARP in, surplus gear to get you carrying equipment out in the woods, or even night vision and brand new gear from the likes of Norarm and Nixie Works, you can use discount code BONER for 10% off. Wait, is the discount code really Boner? Once again, that's discount code BONER for 10% off everything but night vision. It's Drip or Drown over at AmericanaPipedream.com. For real, no cap. All sponsors are linked in the description. This week's episode is brought to you by Two Grunts Inc. Two Grunts Inc. is a veteran-owned and operated rifle manufacturer crafting firearms with professionals and prepared citizens in mind. All of their parts and components are developed, tested, and manufactured to perform using the most standard of mil-spec 5.56 ammunition. Purpose-built work guns is their motto, and rifles made to last is their ethos. With high-end components and materials used in all of their rifles, like their 4150 CMV nitride-treated barrels utilizing a 223 Wild chamber and a 1-in-8 twist, optimized for both M855 and M193 ammunition, achieving 1 MOA or better with most manufactured mil-spec ammos. Bolts made out of 9-310 super alloy steel and carriers made from shot-peened 8-620 steel, maximized for increased toughness, wear resistance, and strength. Each and every part has been meticulously thought out, deliberately tested, and expertly manufactured and installed. Each rifle also comes standard with a 45 or 90 ambidextrous fire controls, gas buster, ambi charging handles, and many other high-end functional parts. Check out their website, twogruntsinc.com, that's TWO as in two, and GRUNTS as in rifleman by trade, INC.com, to purchase one of their rifles, or other parts for sale. Use the code CBRN, that's Charlie Bravo Romeo November, to get $50 off your order. That's CBRN to get $50 off your order. Be sure to also check out their Instagram and YouTube at 2grunts_inc to learn more about them, their rifles, and their other products. Once again, that's code CBRN to receive $50 off your entire purchase at 2gruntsinc.com. Thanks guys for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
It's kind of interesting to me, like the contrast between living this like full-blown homesteader life and all the work you do, and then like the social media stuff. Like I know it started off with that highwayman thing, but like what was the main thing that caused you to like keep on documenting this on social media while you were putting all this time in?
Um, I've really, I've just I've kind of been a fuck up a lot of my life, and
I understand that.
a lot of, you know, I'm an artist at heart. Like deep down, I'm a creative soul, and
That shit's hard to live with. It's terminal.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's tough. So anything that I've ever really seen a good reaction from the public from when it comes to my creative endeavors, they've at least tempted me enough to question, should I pursue this? And social media, back, I guess rewinded time quite a ways. I worked for Nightforce Optics in the shooting sports industry for about a decade. I left that world, and that was really just happenstance. Also, the headquarters of Nightforce Optics, crazy enough, set up shop in the little town of 3,500 people in Idaho that I was born and raised in. And so when I came back from Portland, Oregon in 2007, they were just kind of the big kid on the block to get a decent entry level, job with, and I wound up. I'm always having to sort of put some passion and connection into what it is that I'm trying to make money doing, and so I grew up hunting and fishing, but I never really shot for fun. I never really. I wasn't a recreational shooter. I was more of a hunter, and but after getting to know the products we were making and wanting to feel more bought into what we were doing, I began to really train pretty drastically in long range shooting, and so from Nightforce, I got a whole different side of just a whole different side of life, and once again it was just happenstance because they existed in my little small town, but it started off as a small little sort of a family oriented company back when I first started, and by the time I left, I could see cubicles in my near future, and and no windows, and a lot less freedom, and so I kind of just blew out of there unannounced, and didn't really look back. And from there, I started the little Airstream traveling business, and freedom was what I was after again. But I started to document that whole journey on social media, but it was looking back now, it was kind of more of like a lifestyle content. It really wasn't. I wasn't showing anybody anything, how to do anything. I was just kind of documenting my travels and my journey, and the world really didn't start to pay attention until I started, I guess, DIY content, like where I'm actually doing a job that somebody can watch me fail or succeed at, is where really people started to sort of grasp what it wanting to see what I was doing, and following along. So I started back then, and it stayed small, like less than just a couple thousand people paying attention, and I've always enjoyed the video side of things. I'm not really formally trained in any of it, but the short form stuff just sort of came natural to me, and then now I began to see some sort of, well, I'll just be frank with you guys. So back when the accounts really took off, Meta, TikTok, like all the big social media platforms at that time, just a couple years ago, began to like pay a tremendous amount for, I guess, running advertisements over top of my content, and so I went from just scraping by as per usual, as the sort of fuck up that I've always
talking to two poor starving artists here, so we know.
Absolutely, and man, I was like, I was saying my prayers, asking for what the hell, man, how is this going to change? How am I going to change this up? And pretty soon I get a notification from Meta saying, go and go and finish out your tax information before you lose your earnings. And I clicked through a couple of screens, and in the last 30 days, my Facebook account had made $9,000.
Oh,
And
Holy shit.
yeah, and I just exactly said, "Holy shit! What is even going on here? This is wild." And
did you think it was like an error or something?
I totally thought it was an error, man. We were we were checking it frequently. And just like when you start a new job, and you might work for like 6 weeks before you see your first 2-week paycheck.
Yeah.
That was the same kind of thing. The first couple weeks and the pay period passed, and I didn't get any money from that, and then a whole nother month passed, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I think this might I might have got like this might be just a scam or virus. I don't know what this is, but I don't believe it. And anyway, long story short, it wound up being real for probably as long as Meta needed me to be kicking ass and helping them develop their short form reels sort of side of Facebook. And as soon as they got where they wanted to go, then I'm a poor broke artist again, and the content
Yeah.
the content hasn't changed. Nothing's changed on my end, but yeah, the pay scale, everything's always in some sort of test mode or subject to change without any notification kind of a scenario.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was short lived. It was like, oh, holy shit, we're rich, babe. We're rich. We can we can do some cool stuff. We can budget.
Yeah, this is our job now.
Yeah. So now,
Damn.
now I'm just just back at it, just doing my thing in order to continue to document my journey, and I really do. I say that, and I do mean it. This shit will be amazing to watch in 40 years if the internet's still alive and well,
Yeah.
and
We're not wandering around the craters,
Yeah, exactly. So, documenting it for myself and for the adventure of life in general is the bigger picture goal. But it was definitely not I was pretty pleased to be making a fair living off of all of it at one point, and so now I'm just trying to figure out the business side of all of the shit. It's there's a couple million people paying attention, and I sort of still feel a little bit like a fuck up that I'm not able to somehow turn that into some sort of a small, measly, humble business that can that can help basically offset the costs of some of these projects, and so we'll see where it all goes, but the social media has been a roller coaster, to say the least, throughout the last couple of years. There's no predictability to it.
Absolutely. And I think my big worry about being a kind of a social media related creator, as you probably know, is it could all go away tomorrow.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I think that's, but if it goes away tomorrow, hey, you still have your land, you still have your family, you still have crops, water, most of the things to keep yourself sustaining. That's kind of what I admire about this project. You're somewhat future proofed.
Yeah, we're doing our best, and as the roadblocks sort of pop up in the midst of all of like what we just talked about, we're finding new ways to begin to try to help the community and make a fair living at the same time. Like Heather, I've mentioned Heather, my significant other. She's incredible, but she's a labor and delivery nurse at our regional hospital and has been for about 23 years now. But also is a nurse midwife and a passionate herbalist or herbal medicine practitioner. And so I'm in good hands. I've hurt myself on almost a daily basis, and she's no softie. She doesn't come running by any means. But if I really was in some sort of a accident, I've got a good person to try to help out on that side of life. But she she's brilliant, and she and I have been building sort of an herbal medicine product line based on harvested plant medicine here from our property. Um, we've also began to teach community herbal medicine classes around our local region, and some of those projects are turning into sort of like side hustle money in the bigger picture of the farm and what we have going. And all throughout the spring, it's been awesome. We started teaching classes in February, and I say we, I'm just like the classroom helper, so don't get don't get
teaching assistant Mark.
Yeah, I'm just I refill the herbal teas and hand out information. No, I do whatever I can, and I contribute where it is applicable. But in the bigger picture, she's the herbal medicine expert. She's amazing, and I've learned so much just through osmosis with listening and paying attention to what she's teaching and what she is harvesting here on the property. But yeah, point being is that if the social media stuff just falls out tomorrow, we are trying our best to do community-based small business practices that are helping to sort of subsidize the expenses of continuing to build this place. So this Saturday will be Saturday number 2 of being vendors at our like local Latah County farmers market.
Amazing!
Yeah, so we're in little small town Troy, Idaho, every Saturday now from 9 to 1 o'clock, and
yeah, I love Troy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a short little drive up the mountain for us, and we've always been fans of the Moscow Farmers Market, and went up and did our shopping up there as frequently as we could. But it's a new thing for us to be setting up shop and selling the herbal medicines that we're making, and advertising the classes and stuff like that. So it's just, yeah, we're doing what we can to make a humble living, side hustle living off of all of the farm stuff. So
I mean, that's the best thing you can do, is try and build in everything you can into the lifestyle so it pays for itself.
absolutely.
Which, easier said than done.
It's not easy, man. I'm humbled every day by once again just the amount of the social media shit that I've got going, but yet how I just can't seem to understand how to connect all those dots into something bigger, because it's a challenge every day. So
we wouldn't know anything about that.
No idea.
Big old art and war, just throwing bags of cash around.
Yeah,
it's what it is.
I actually do appreciate content creators that can reach such a massive audience and also don't compromise their integrity. I'm looking at you,
Oh no! Oh, fuck. Stress.
It's up to you if you want to censor that name.
Oh,
but
so now it's on me.
Yes, anyone selling steel plates and Chinese tourniquets can get their PP slapped.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
I feel like as content creators, it's very easy to make money simply by having a
platform. No.
Yeah.
You're bang on the money. Like, it's if you have no values and if you don't feel like you owe it to your fellow man to set them up for success, especially in a community like this, and I ramble on about this, where things that you might be selling to people are potentially a matter of life and death. And if you have no conscience about that, killer, you can really make some money.
100%. Sure. Like steel plates. I feel like steel plates are one of my big litmus tests for like.
It's like, this is not a serious person.
Yes, this is not a serious person. I want nothing to do with them. Generally, it's like But I find also the companies that are willing to spend the most on hiring people to basically shill as content creators are generally
Right.
the people to avoid. And I think you're doing it the right way, making this work the long, hard way, as opposed to taking the easy road of just like, hey, Mark Bonnalie with AR 500 armor, AR 500
Yeah,
armor. Well, yeah.
No,
It's multi-hit. You might not be alive, but it's multi-hit.
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Oh
it's
god.
a spicy world out there with the yeah, and a lot of the journeys that I've seen on the sidelines are in a sort of just pretty embarrassing for the content creating world, or else maybe yeah, maybe I'm the small percentage, but I authenticity is the biggest thing for me in
Yeah.
all of this shit. I don't want to I don't want to do anything that I'm not sleeping at night soundly about, and so once again back. Still haven't figured out the business side of it, and I may never figure it out. But hopefully, we'll get this local, regional, like sort of boots on the ground, sort of herbal medicine and farm stuff off the ground uh, to where that can be the thing. And yeah, the social media is never. It was only a 6 month spell where I was shouting to Heather, "We're rich, we're rich." It wasn't the bulk of any part of the journey so far. So nothing nothing that you could get too used to too quick. But it's humbling nonetheless, man. I wish I had the formula without selling your soul kind of scenario, but that's just
Yeah.
not come across my conscience yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll know you've made it if we see Mark on the side of the mountain with like Manscaped or something.
Yeah,
Casper mattresses.
yeah,
What's that? Me undies.
yeah. Me undies, no shit, man. I feel bad for those folks, man. Even some of the big name podcasters that I like to listen to are shouting some of that shit, and it just
Oh,
ruins it.
don't get me wrong. If those guys offer us cash, you'll hear
Yeah.
us shouting from the rooftops.
Oh, dude,
I won't lie. I won't lie.
dude, Raid Shadow Legends spend so much per ad. You could buy a car with each ad that they do.
Oh my god! Wow.
Like I think it was like 12K, 16K, something silly. I don't know.
Oh my
I can't
god!
quote.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's something silly. That being said, I can see why it'd be annoying, but I do respect that kind of product placement a little more than like, hey, come buy our Chinese tourniquets. It's exactly like what I was issued in Iraq. The
Yeah,
steel
right.
armor will save your life. Like that kind of shit.
God damn it, Nathan.
I have no respect. Like I'm a comedian. Those guys are fucking clowns.
Oh,
Oh god. I'm gonna be so creative with the editing here.
Yes.
We're not gonna turn Mark's every single time we have a guest who is like very wholesome and kind and like just
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that thing. Nathan's like, I'm gonna pop off during this one.
I love it. That's good balance. I appreciate it.
No worries. I appreciate you having a good humor with it. Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
Oh god. Back on topic.
Yeah.
Is there anything like when you were actually something I do want to ask, stepping
Yeah,
back
yeah.
a little bit, like how long were you and Heather, your significant other, like talking about doing the homesteading thing? Like was it like a real long-term idea for you guys, or like when did the idea of homesteading appeal to you? Because I'm interested now that you influence so many other people to consider this lifestyle, like how long was that kind of growing in your own mind?
Yeah. So, thinking back, uh, thinking back from now, I believe that initially, like I get messages from so many people and talk to so many people nowadays that are like, oh, we're just a couple more years. We're gonna pursue this homesteading dream. We're gonna do what you're doing. But I got to be honest. For us, it was really just having no neighbors. Like we when we were living in town, Lewiston's not a totally shitty town, but it's just about, I don't know, 3,500 or 35,000 people probably. We had a larger sort of city lot, I guess you'd say, like 3/4 of an acre, but still on a pretty busy street. And so I don't. It all sort of materialized after. I would say for probably a year we talked about, well, homesteading in general before we sold and bought property. But prior to that, it was always just the dream of living in the country, and whatever. We didn't really have an idea of exactly what that looked like back 5 or 10 years ago. It was really just getting out of town and getting away from next door neighbors, kind of a scenario. So much of what has turned into the homestead journey has been really just kind of dealing with what we found as acreage, and what we bought as property was just bare land. Honestly, ever since COVID happened is when we were like, let's get the hell out of town. I mean, there was too much. There was. Luckily, I was like self-employed, traveling, doing my vintage trailer thing, so I wasn't restricted in any way. I was probably.
I have decided I'm an essential employee. Fuck
Yeah,
you.
I'm doing. I'm all over the place by myself. Out exploring the country, and of course, everything was like sort of shut down if it was a sight to see or whatever. But that's when we like really made up our mind that we wanted to get the hell out of town and start doing as much of our own thing as we could. But for, I would say, 5 years prior to that, it was really just we want to live in the country. We don't want neighbors anymore. It wasn't so much we want to become self-sufficient in everything that we can do. That really came after COVID, and then after we bought the acreage. We've really just worked with what we found as far as property goes. And so yeah, kind of honestly different than what I hear from in the public nowadays, and what I see so commonly is now everybody knows they've got it sort of a little bit mapped out, like this is what our journey wants to look like, and we want to buy acreage, and we want to start from the ground up. And for us, we just wanted to find the right piece of property that we could afford and that we could feel good about. And we were sort of looking in probably Heather always wanted to stay employed at the same regional hospital. So she, at the time, was just working like 2 12s a week back to back. And so we were looking probably within about a 2-hour radius of the hospital that she still works at for property. And it's just like that old story that you hear everybody say, like when you walk on the property that you wind up buying, you'll know, you'll feel it. And for us, that was exactly it. And we looked at a lot of different little parcels of land, stuff that we could afford and stuff that we thought, but really we were just shopping, like sort of prerequisite shopping, because when we finally decided to sell our home, shit was selling in like a matter of days or a week.
Yeah.
The real estate was really off the wall. And so we really didn't even we were just young and dumb enough to try to pull it all off. We didn't have a set recipe, and we really didn't have the in the end, what happened was we found this property, and we found it on Facebook Marketplace, and we wound up researching the address and figuring out where it was. We came out here on our own and found the property and hiked the property. And that's, like, honestly, it was the only property that we'd fallen in love with so far. And we'd looked at probably a dozen to 12 to 20 different properties at that point. And, but once again, we hadn't even listed our house for sale. We were just like ready to do it, and didn't know, it didn't, so there's just like this big gray area for us, when we didn't have the money to buy property yet. Here we were, like, looking for the properties that we might be interested in to get an idea of what was out there. And in the end, we wound up running into a real estate lady who was showing somebody else this land as we were out here just kind of poaching around and hiking on the property to see how it felt. And she wound up telling us that we were unaware of this, but real estate people have a lot. Anyway, she said, well, if you got a nice place in town and you would like to put an offer on this place, you can put an offer on this property contingent on the sale of your home and your property. And we had never even heard of that, didn't know that was even a thing. And at that point, we went ahead and jumped through the hoops that were necessary to make that happen. And we listed our place for sale. It sold, I think, in about 4 days. And we stipulated a 48-hour overlap of once the place sells, we have 48 hours before we give up the keys. So for, I don't know, God, we were selling shit like left and right for months, getting up to this point, because we knew we were really going to have a place to take anything to, so we just, like, we liquidated our life as far as all of our bullshit, belongings that we knew that we weren't going to really need, that we could recapture at some point. And then it was a mad dash. The house sold. We closed on this property, and we had 48 hours to get the fuck out of the out of the nice. I say nice life. Like, there's a lot nicer places, and it wasn't some sort of a mansion or anything like that. But it was a well put together home with a couple of good sized bathrooms and plenty of bedrooms and just plenty of extra space. And now we live in, well, I'm in about 150 square foot, 20-foot Airstream right now as I'm talking to you guys, and this is what I call home, and has been since, for the last 3 years now.
I love your strange collection of I don't know what to call them. Campers, trailers?
Yeah. They're I've always loved everything old, like I love old trucks, old just everything old, man. They don't make shit anymore like they used to, as far as style and quality and beauty beauty was built into manufacturing back, anywhere from 50 to 150 years ago.
Now everything's cold and industrial.
Yeah, it's pretty, they're redoing all the bridges around here, and it's kind of sad to see the stuff that they tear out to do these really boring, anyway. Life has changed a lot, and so I think it was like a 2,700 square foot home, and Heather had a little, like, we had an 800 square foot little commercial building, like, out in front of our home that was all part of our property, and Heather had her nurse midwife women's health clinic in that building. And then I had just completed my little 1,000 square foot brand new shop to sort of work on the travel trailers. And I don't know, from from one set of goofy goggles, it looked like we were kind of setting ourselves up for a decent bit of freedom in that respect. But yeah, now we each have our own little vintage junker RV that we live in while we're building out all the infrastructure of this property. And
I love that.
And soon, yeah, it's kind of the standard data for homesteading these days. Everything's so expensive that to buy acreage, we were lucky enough, to pay cash for this property based on the sale of our home and all of our shit, and then we invested as much as we could into like a little Kubota mini excavator, the equipment necessary to develop the property. But money runs out. You start out thinking, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to do this and that and the other thing, and life is just expensive. Period. So
Yeah.
the RV living stuff, while you for us, we may have chose to do this all backwards. I don't really know. We didn't really have anybody to ask, and we just did what felt right. But we wanted to sort of recreate the property before we started to think we're ready to build a home. So like water system, irrigation for all the future garden, the giant garden space that we have in our plans, septic system, so water storage tanks and septic system, which all that stuff in the real world just means like you tear up all of your property. You're digging trenches all over the place and burying water lines and then reburying everything and trying to make everything look better than it was when you found it, and sort of also trying to pre-predict where all of your outbuildings and barns and all of those things are going to be, so that you've got water that pops out of the ground in all those places. And so anyway, we chose to do this infrastructure first, and it was really just more utilitarian in our view of we needed a garden, which our garden needs water. So one thing, we found this mountain spring on our property and began to develop that, and one thing led to another. And now I'm literally, I would say I'm probably 2 days worth of hard work away from filling 5,000 linear feet of buried water line throughout our entire homestead acreage with water for the
Holy
very
crap.
first time, and having spigots that gravity feed water in places of this property that have never had running water, in any of its past life. So our life
Pretty
just,
incredible.
it's amazing, man. I get all charged up about it. It's
I love that.
it's way different than any of my past passions, but it's all come from figuring out what we had to work with, and then just sort of trying our best to capitalize on the perks that our property gave us, or however you want to say it. But yeah, man, I'm so close. We're right now we still haul 55-gallon drums of water up above the garden area, where we have another empty 55-gallon drum that we sort of transfer one barrel at a time to water the garden. And we've done that for 3 years now. And here within a couple of days, we'll have water coming out of spigots that have never seen water. And this water system has been a 2-year project. So it's all coming to a head here shortly, and it's going to be magical to say the least. I I say this on my videos sometimes, but I sort of get tunnel vision and really enjoy the process of some of these off-grid capable projects. But the thing that comes to light as the projects sort of begin to become finished is that shit, this really wasn't just to build this and have fun building it. It actually is going to change our whole way that we live as soon as we flip the switch, so to speak, on this project being done. So yeah, there's joys that come with all this work that I can't even really put into words. It's pretty incredible.
I love seeing your homestead come along. Do you have any plans on building more permanent structures? Like I saw you did the concrete pour that no one thought you could do. I wish I
Yeah.
knew more about that to talk about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We've really just been doing like the stuff that winds up getting buried first, tearing up the ground, and then, water lines and tanks and septic systems. But as those projects come to a close, we will, we've got 3 different pump houses to build that'll all sit on top of the large 2,000-gallon concrete water cisterns. We've got a barn and a greenhouse to build. We've always had this sort of area called the craft kitchen planned, which would kind of be. We've always had hopes of building, or we've always had intentions of building a small permanent home. Like probably 800 square feet or smaller. We kind of like the tinier living sort of stuff, so the craft kitchen was always has always been planned as like a, I guess, place to do our canning and do our butchering and and all the farm related things that you might
the more
do.
labor intensive prepping stuff.
Yeah, all of that stuff we were always going to keep sort of in its own more industrial styled like craft
spray
kitchen.
down the kitchen when you're done kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stainless countertops,
Stainless
and
everything.
cutting,
I love that.
cutting boards and
Yeah.
like a
no granite here, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. Just industrial in that area. And like a little walk-in cooler is another project I've got planned. Really cool. Like so, and then that has also, as we began to teach these community herbal medicine classes, we've also sort of strived to incorporate some sort of an area that we could bring folks out to the property to teach and to do throughout all the classes that we've been teaching or that Heather's been teaching. We have had a lot of interest in sort of plant medicine identification walks and stuff where people would love to come and
very important.
come and cruise the land and be shown what is what, so that they can kind of take that knowledge back to their own place and do similar things with that information. So maybe like a little bit of a classroom setting also in the craft kitchen area, but yeah. So those are like all the outbuildings that we have planned, and then Heather's always been in love with what's called a straw bale built home.
Earthquake proof and eco and
Yeah,
all that kind of thing.
Yeah. So
my parents are obsessed with that idea too.
yeah, and I've always been like, once again, sort of the sideline guy on that. I understand traditional building methods, and I'm decent at those type of things, but we sort of took a workshop last fall on building a straw bale home, and like a hands-on build of another person's home. And anyway, that's always been the sort of end game for the small small house that we eventually build. But here, just probably in the last couple months, we wound up going on this little couple night getaway and driving through the small little rural towns of Idaho. We came across a really nice tiny home built on a trailer that we've always been attracted to these tiny homes, but this one had some styling all of its own, and was really like, wow, man, that's maybe more realistic. We might be able to get ourselves out of these RVs and into something like that, quicker. The RVs, they've worked great for being 70s models, RVs, but we're always fighting through failures like water pipe breaks or water heater, just like little things that in normal life people would probably be pretty pissed about. We just sort of realize the bed that we've made and sleep in it, but
Yeah. Just little
but
discomforts and little hiccups.
yeah, but so anyway, long story short is we had this straw bale dream. Heather had a straw bale dream, and we were sort of holding out for that mission. But after we drove past on a little getaway, we drove past this fancy little custom built tiny home, and started to think, man, I bet we could I could build something like that for us, and we could probably be out of these trailers in the next year or two. And so that led us down the road of it's the craziest shit. You're going to laugh, and lots of people online laugh at me, but we wound up buying a modular home transport trailer. So it's like this giant I-beam trailer, 5 axles, 60 feet long, and it is it's just it's like I did a video and I joked about it. It was really just a joke, but I said we're going to be building the biggest tiny home that's ever existed on the internet so far, and with that comes like all these. This will be possibly good for some of the listeners in the more restricted areas of the country, but one of the things we realized through our research is that if we build on a chassis like we're going to do, it's some people probably scoff at this, but it's not considered real property. So this type of a build of a home won't affect our property taxes. There's no it can't be included into the property itself as and then become
yeah, if it's not
that's then.
Yeah. I know someone similar who, shout out, I will not dox him here. He does similar on...
Shout
out. Well, he listens to this, so he'll know exactly who it is.
Okay.
He, you met him at SHOT Show, actually, as well. He buys mining rights to places, and to avoid... To get around the fact that, similar to you, having permanent structures changes the property value of places. In this case, you can buy the mining rights, but you can't have permanent structures. So just drag trailers out to them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a great idea. Which, side note, apparently you can buy mining rights to entire areas for $500 in Northern California somewhere. But that's besides the point. Sorry, continue.
No. It's wild, and we didn't really set out on this mission to do this, but so after we drove past this really awesome custom tiny home built on a what appeared to be like an old modular home chassis, we began to sort of brainstorm and think, what could we do? So we started to search online classifieds for large frames like this, because honestly, I've seen some custom tiny home built on like YouTube, and people will pay I've seen just the trailer alone that they wind up building the structure on top of, custom width and length trailers cost $18,000. And we bought this 60-foot long by 11.5-foot wide I-beam transport trailer for $1,900.
What?
Which
Huh.
is just like ludicrous. Yeah, and based on the math and the structural integrity of the I-beam size, we're going to build a 16 by 60 foot structure on top of this trailer, and as long as it stays on the chassis, it's not considered real property, and it will not be able to affect the property taxes of our homestead. So
That's amazing.
Mark.
Yeah.
None of our listeners will scoff at that fact. Everyone's writing that shit down right now. like that's fucking genius.
Yeah, well, it's I didn't live a rich upbringing. I grew up in a single wide, a really nicely well kept single wide trailer home. But ever since I posted that video, of course, there's a lot of haters that are like, "You didn't reinvent single wide trailer homes, bro. You're not doing it." But
It's called
however,
DIY, man. Come on.
Yeah, the plan we have for it, you guys, everybody, if interested, pay attention in the near future, because we're about to drag the trailer home. We'll be bringing it home all on our own, which is just a wild process in itself to pull something that large down the highways of Idaho and then up our mountain to our property. But so yeah, no property tax increase. And then the further I look into all this, the more I can't find any reason that we have to go through any inspections at all for the build process. Like we can build this however we choose with whatever materials we choose. And sometimes I think that might look scary if folks are not going to be the ones that are fixing it. But I just don't like the red tape of any of the bullshit that goes along with normal America. So if I can sidestep any of that stuff, I'm completely game. And the straw bale structure the straw bale home that I talked about that we had been sort of dreaming about for a couple of years or a number of years, we were literally going to kind of have to hold the hands of the local building inspectors and say, this is actually a thing, like it works.
We're not doing three little pigs out here.
Yeah. But by all means, it would have been fully, would have fallen fully under the spectrum of inspection at every level and every turn. And so just by happenstance of a little anniversary getaway that Heather and I had, we discovered this new sort of more realistic way of getting into a beautiful custom built place that I'll be building myself for us, and sidestepping a whole lot of the bullshit that goes with building a home on your homestead property. So yeah, I wish that we were. I'm not sure about you, BR, but some of the places I know back east and in the south are no code enforcement and no building inspections, in certain counties. And
Yeah.
Idaho has a couple counties that are like that, but we're not in one of them. So this route that we're taking, that we've chosen to do, is going to be, once again, just another huge dose of freedom for the build process and the end result. So yeah, it's 60 by 16 is the dimensions. It'll be sort of like long, just 60 feet worth of windows and doors all across the front, and a single slope roof, tall in the front and lower in the back. And super excited about it. But right now, like, trying to get pasture fencing done so that we can move the animals out of the area that the trailer is going to need to be set up in to begin the build process. So buying this trailer sort of just put a whole bunch of shit into high gear, because now we own it, but it's still sitting on the land of the person we bought it from, and we're trying to rearrange our, like, the build site that we have to work with in order to fit this giant trailer here. And so
for your giant tiny home.
yeah, I
just love that phrase.
I got so much shit for saying that, but it's really true. Like, in my world and in my eyes, tiny homes are just, they have certain character to them. I don't
It's like
think of them.
a concept, not like a box that you need to fit inside of.
Yeah, no, and everybody's like, oh man, tiny homes are 500 feet or less, 500
Yeah.
square feet or less, or tiny homes are this, or tiny homes are that. I'm like,
Expand your mind, man.
yeah, that's fine. It's whatever, but this will be a custom built home on a chassis that gets us out of all sorts of nastiness. So I'm just really excited that life worked out like it did, and we'll probably never be able to move the monstrosity once we build it on top of,
Yeah.
of the place. It won't be a traveling tiny home by any means,
Yeah.
But in theory,
In
it's
theory.
not
yeah,
permanent.
Yeah.
absolutely. It can,
I mean,
we
you moved
we
it
can
there.
move it. Yeah, we can cut down some fences and rearrange the road and get it out of here if we need to.
Yeah.
So someone I wanted to ask about, Mark, like, you described yourself as a fuck up, and yet you're, like, so clearly very handy. Like, where did those skills come from? Did you just, like, are you learning on the job, or is there, like, a previous thing in life that
Yeah.
kind of you accumulated these skills? Because obviously
No,
you'd have to be handy for the renovating the Airstream thing, but
yeah. Yeah, totally a fuck up. I can't reverse that statement at all. I gotta, like, sort of give props to my dad's the shit. He's an amazingly talented man. My mom's really creative and talented as well, but and I never really paid attention, when I was young, when I should have been listening better to my dad as he was building, like he built the law. So, like, we lived in a single wide trailer my whole upbringing until about junior high, and then my dad started to build a log cabin that that we wound up moving into, and then of course they still live there in that same home. But
that's cool.
yeah, just, man, I only picked up on just enough to be dangerous throughout all those younger goofy years. I had the ability to learn so much more, and I wasn't interested in much. But I tell people, like I do, through my platform all the time, like, this is just the information age. If you're passionate and you want to learn and you want to know how to do something, the biggest gift I think I've got is I just am obsessive researcher, and the information's out there. If you want to Google something and sort through the bullshit to find the real stuff that's applicable to what you're trying to accomplish, it's never been so easy. So but I did have a good rural upbringing where we weren't spoiled, and we weren't doing what a lot of the homestead kids are doing these days. It's, it was far from that, but just good common sense and good sort of rural upbringing, I guess, is what I credit to the ability to learn a lot of this shit on the fly, because it's not.
Yeah.
And then I've tried every kind of job, that that exists out there in the newspaper throughout my youth.
Like tradesman kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of concrete work and a little bit of and it was always just like, you're the grunt, kind of just pack this shit and haul this heavy stuff. But you got to be around enough to sort of pick up on a little bit of it. But I hate to say it, but the internet's my biggest teacher. I'm just obsessive about research and yeah, I don't want to build, even though I want to skip all the red tape and all the inspections and stuff. I still want to build the nicest the nicest, um, most rock solid thing that I can build in any project that I'm setting out to accomplish, because ultimately I'm the only one that's going to be able to or have to fix it, when if it falls apart. So
Is that Mark? Is that your chicken, or BR? Is that your cat? I can't tell.
It's my fucking cat, as per usual.
I love it.
We're like just over the hour mark, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, it's time to interrupt."
Oh, I
Absolutely,
love it, man.
I've been recording podcasts his entire life, and he
Yeah,
still is
still
very
comes in
upset.
and
He's like, "Over an hour, really?"
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, dude. Every
I
week,
love it.
Yeah.
every week we do a few of these, but
I love it.
oh no,
Uh,
Nathan.
this is not important at all. I did a thing with my cat, and I have a kitten now, so I'm kind of doing the same
Oh,
thing as
awesome.
well.
Yeah,
Thank you. Her name's Casca. She's pretty cool.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's kind of mean, but it works really well. Which is every time she meows for my attention, I just turn my back.
Oh shit.
And
You just
she hates that.
yeah. Oh,
So
Well,
I
of
don't doubt it.
course.
It's
yeah,
like
so
That
pulling
is the
out the
exact
cat card on
opposite
the
of what I
cat.
wanted.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. That's exactly the point. So both cats, my older cat and this cat, have learned very quickly. It's like that's not how you get attention. My older cat knows I make cute sounds instead, and she just makes
Yeah.
kind of like beeping, or she tries to flip
Yeah.
whatever's in my hands, which I kind of prefer. And yeah, no, it built good habits early on. By good habits, I mean like they'll jump into my lap and forcibly take whatever's in my hands out of my hands. But I
Yeah,
kind of
right.
prefer that. Yeah,
No,
Mark, do you have cats?
I
I can't remember.
I do I I do, man. I've always been a cat man. We we moved out here with a brother and sister cat. The brother was a badass hunter, and the sister is just kind of like this lazy, like heavy set.
Yeah,
Doesn't do much as far as the mice are concerned around here. But funny you say that, because we this Sunday we go pick up two new kittens. I lost my boy cat.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, last fall I guess it was, and um, definitely noticing how much hunting he was doing after he's gone. We're we're finding signs of mice in places that just shouldn't be. So we finally, yeah, made the decision. We're bringing home two kittens this weekend that we went and picked out and got to know a week ago. So good stuff, man. We're
Yeah.
animal lovers.
That's something that's been a big consideration of mine with like looking for property and stuff. Like, if you don't mind me asking, did you lose the boy cat to like predators, or did they just go missing?
He just went missing. But there's a lot of bobcat around here, coyote, and he was such he was such a badass that it's hard to think that he couldn't handle himself in any situation. But he he was out here for a couple of straight years, just kicking ass and taking names, and
Hmm.
then just never came home. So um,
Uh,
Damn.
pretty bummer deal. I get attached to my animals, and he was like he was yeah, he was pretty awesome. But so it's taken some time to even want to like really humor the thought of another little cat dude taking his place. But it's been since last fall, I guess, and Heather found these kittens in about an hour away that we went and visited last weekend and picked out a couple of them. So we'll we still got the fat lazy sister cat that just hangs out and doesn't contribute much, but we'll have a couple little boy kittens here in a week, or actually in a couple days, and uh, hopefully they'll take over some of the mousing around here.
Yeah. It's it's something that like I've been thinking about a lot is like if I want my animals to be outdoor animals, which I do, I'm like, I am going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
fucking massacre the local predator populace just
Oh,
night after
yeah,
night,
yeah.
night vision AR suppressor, just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, you staying up late, babe? Yeah, I
yeah,
I
yeah,
am killing the local populace of anything that might hurt my boys.
yeah, yeah. I don't blame you. I feel the same. So we also have on the farm side of things, we have 9 Nigerian dwarf little, dwarf goats, which are they're
That's
about
awesome.
I don't know medium-sized dogs, sort of just like glorified weed eaters or lawnmowers. We don't yet have the barn, so we don't really have a good safe place to breed them and have um, and reproduce and make new babies. But uh, eventually we'll be breeding a couple of them and then doing goat milk products like soap and stuff like that. But our mountainside is super overgrown with blackberry
Yeah.
briar, blackberry bushes, and they do a number on all the blackberries. So we've just sort of expanded our herd as we had 2 goats when we moved out here, and then we've gotten 7 more since we've been here, and they're like my therapists. They follow me all over the mountain, and it's kind of hard to not watch them and laugh or smile about anything. So
That's what I need to do. Like the one outdoor chore, I'm quite happy doing outdoor stuff, but like the one outdoor chore above anything that I despise,
yeah.
which is like I think the opposite of the average American man with his
Oh
his
yeah.
white sneakers and all that, is like mowing the lawn. I fucking can't
Really?
stand it. So it 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 pisses me off like
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much. Like it just torrential rain in England
yeah.
all the time. So every time you like my dad would be like, "Oh, grass needs mowing." I go
Stuffing
out
the
there, it gets
mower. Yeah,
clumped up with like just fucking bricks of grass, and I'm like tearing up. Yeah, I'm tearing up the garden because it's rained for the last 7 days. Oh, get out there and cut the grass. Just destroy the garden. Oh, it doesn't look that good. I'm like, I know. So I think for life, I will never be proud of the lawn. It's one
yeah,
thing I
yeah.
was happy about living in the desert. I was like, no grass to cut. This is fucking excellent. So maybe I just need to get like 20 miniature Nigerian goats.
Yeah, man, they're awesome for that. And we don't have any. Yeah, right along your hating mowing the grass. We don't have any actual manicured grass areas planned. We've done like
Based.
tons of like field grass planting and stuff like that, but it's all to right now it's beautiful and green here, but it's all a couple feet tall and mixed with clover and all sorts of herbs and shit. So no mowers on the acreage, which is a blessing. And the only and the goats, they're spoiled rotten. They kind of free range. They get locked up at night in their sort of corral area. Uh, and then we got 17 chickens, or who knows, maybe 8. I don't know. I think about 17 laying.
An
Yeah,
undetermined
yeah,
amount.
yeah.
The state of Appalachia was saying to me, chicken math is a thing, and it's the
What?
fact that like you just constantly end up with more chickens. Like
Oh, it's
the
true.
the wife will be like the wife will just go out and buy more chickens and add to your collection,
Yeah,
and
yeah. It's
you have an indeterminable amount of chickens just kind of constantly.
I've actually found that it's better that way because once again, man, I get like I'm just an animal lover, man. I if
Yeah,
humans weren't really a thing and animals were the only thing, I don't know that I'd be missing out a whole lot. So they
I
um
feel that very deeply.
yeah, but
Yeah.
but so I've always been kind of close to all of our farm animals, but if you have enough that you don't exactly know if one's missing, I think it's maybe not a bad thing. We've always joked about that. Like, I don't know if somebody got taken or somebody got. I'm like, I think that there's about 17 left, but no. So Heather and I have joked about that, but so chickens and goats and plans for um, pigs next spring. After we get this pasture fence finished, we'll be raising a couple piglets to butcher, which that'll be um, a whole nother challenging deal to go down that road. But yeah, man, we're doing our best to envision getting out of the commercial meat game when it comes to store-bought meats, and we're surrounded by incredible rivers right now. The Chinook salmon are running just over the ridge in the Clearwater River, and with hunting and fishing and then raising a few farm animals. I don't. I think it should be just a matter of a couple more years, and we should be fairly checked out from buying meat from the store. So that's a huge goal for us.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually that's the dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Heather,
I think that every time I see my grocery bill.
it's unreal, man, and yeah, the difference. I mean, we all get so accustomed to what we're buying and what we're eating that it all tastes just wonderful, whatever. But the times that you get to chow down on something that was farm raised with like some good ethics behind it, it's a whole different experience. And the meat that comes from these small regenerative farms is like second to none. So we're no experts in any of it, but that's the bigger picture goal. Heather is already, she's her passion is being out in the garden constantly. The garden is I love growing stuff too, but I got my hands full with building shit. So she's happy to be the main source of passion for the garden here. So when it comes to the veggies and fruits and stuff, that's kind of one side of the homestead. But then the bigger or the equivalent goal is tap out of the meat game and try to be fairly self-sufficient with homegrown or home harvested meats here in the next 2 years. So
yeah, I think that's admirable. It's hard, very hard.
Oh yeah, it's it's well, like I said, it's going to be challenging. People keep warning me that pigs are super smart and that they're hard to not get attached to as you raise them to an age that then they're butchered at. But just try to keep perspective on the way the world's worked the best in the past compared to how it's all fucked up now, and yeah, it'll be challenging. Who knows? I might eat my words next time we talk, but but that
like anyway, this is Mr. Pigley
Yeah.
and his buddy, not bacon.
Yeah.
I've been trying to prepare my lady for that from now years before we have animals. I'm like, there's a difference.
Yes, yeah. I've got some. I've got one friend who is like in her 80s, and she's an amazing, just amazing lady. But she's always sort of reminiscent and telling me, how they did things back when she was younger, growing up. And she's told me, she's like, well, we had this system where we just had the neighbor's farm. The neighbors were our good friends, and when it came butcher time, then we all swapped farm animals. They came and picked up our farm animals. We went and picked up their farm animals, and we each butchered each other's farm animals. Which you're now butchering.
That's pretty clever.
You're now butchering.
Yeah, no, it's probably for the best.
That she said it's the only way that they could. I mean, not to say that people aren't capable, but that sort of struck a vibe with me, and I don't have that person that I can do that swap with yet. But for the potential homestead listeners out there, I thought that was a pretty cool idea that they've been practicing since like the 50s.
That's a question worth asking. Is like a lot of the homesteaders we get on this show, they often tout community and getting to know your neighbors and stuff, but Idaho is a pretty empty place by the sounds of it. Like, is there anyone kind of within your vicinity that's kind of someone you could call on to help raise barns, or is it like you guys and
Yeah,
plan
yeah.
to self-rescue kind of thing?
No, no. Definitely, we've got like a great little mountainside community here. Um,
Mm.
there's a couple that live down below us, Jesse and Haley. They have an amazing milk cow, and we get all of our raw milk from their little farm just less than a mile away. They also raise
Oh,
goats.
I
Yeah,
need to start buy. I need to start buying raw milk from them
it's
or
it
something.
it's
It's so cheap. It
unbelievable. It
gets expensive.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Um, I was never.
I'm just buying at Rosars right now.
Oh man, you gotta try this. We
Yeah.
we kind of get the leftover. Like we don't. She's got her normal, regular weekly customers, and we sort of slept in too late on getting on that list. And now, sort of like if they just have extra milk, we always get the call, and we jump to the occasion. But um, I'll just say that I was never a big milk drinker in my past of growing up, and I also was a little bit like thought, I don't know if I'm going to be down with the raw milk just from the homestead side of life. But the first
Yeah.
the first time I've had raw milk, oh my God, it's like it's just unbelievable.
Oh,
Like,
it's so good.
oh my God, I'm 100,000% sold. I would buy it anytime she's got extra. I'm yeah, jumping in the truck and driving down to her spot to go pick it up. It's uh, anyway. I just never saw that coming. I was kind of like, oh, I'm not a big milk drinker, but good raw, well handled raw milk is unbelievable. I've just that's been a big change in my knowledge of raw milk. So I'm sold.
There's this phenomena of I mean, I won't just say Americans, but like Western people in general, like basically finding access to real food, like not fucked with. There's no weird middleman doing questionable things or like standards that don't really make all that much sense being applied to them. Like you just have food or like milk and stuff
Yeah.
Yeah.
the natural way it comes, and you're like,
Yeah.
why is this like 1,000 times not like 10% better, not 50%
Oh
better, like
yeah.
1,000 times better? You're like,
Oh man.
what the fuck are they doing to our
Yeah.
food?
It's
I
so
will
true.
shill raw milk so hard.
Dude.
It is like a natural probiotic as well. It
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, I love it. I love it.
Oh
It's not
man.
It
just
like
that it
activates
tastes
your
good.
monkey, yeah. It
Yeah.
activates your monkey brain. You're like, oh, this appeals to me on a level I didn't know possible and haven't experienced before.
Yeah. I
It's
genuinely did
a
not
little
get the
bit
hype.
scary.
Yeah.
It is. No, you're
I
right.
didn't get the hype.
No, I didn't initially either, and I always thought, oh, raw milk's going to be funky, like too strong or too something, and
Yeah.
man, anyway, just 180 degrees difference after experiencing yeah, raw milk from our neighbor's farm, because it's something to really like be excited about, if you ask me, at this stage of life.
Mark, passionate milk drinker, newly passionate milk drinker. That's something I kind of wanted to ask about. Like, seeing as you somewhat fell into the idea, like the wider idea of homesteading, like initially going in and just wanting, like, I want some space, I want to live, out of the city, and then kind of like coming into this whole new world of homesteading and prepping and stuff. Are there any misconceptions or anything that you feel you could dispel for people who either they might like the idea of prepping and all that, but see the homesteading thing and go, no thanks, a little bit too much for me? Is there anything you can dispel for people?
Um, I would say like I just never saw the there's such a deep-seated wholesome happiness that comes from working the land that you're hoping to like hand down to your whatever, to your offspring, to your kids, and just making something from nothing. I've always been into building stuff and projects, but I just never realized that there's like this whole sixth sense to the gratification that comes from actually doing these real life sustainability things. Like, I mean, I mentioned it already, but finding a seep of spring water coming out of the rocks and then turning that into a sustainable homestead water source that we drink every day and sustains us, like that in itself is really cool. But the happiness that comes from the whole process of knowing that you did that and you did it on your own is just like there's I've called it like this circle of life happiness that I never experienced before doing these types of I mean, in essence they're all sustainability projects, but really I think they're just like what humans were doing for so long before we got like really sort of sidetracked, and there is some extreme joy that comes from all of that. You know, the garden thing, gardens have been catching on in America for, you know, probably a decade to 20 years, even, you know, fairly strong. And have always been, you know, 60 years ago they were the staple. 100 years ago they were the staple. But we've sort of this convenience factor of modern living and the fast pace of shit has sort of turned us away from a lot of these things. And so in theory they all sound cool as projects, but I'm just here to say that the real joy, like joy that is hard to put a finger or put words on describing, comes from living those things out and experiencing them on a daily basis. And but then on the flip side of that coin, there is a ton of shit that I have friends in town that, you know, like I bring up some of the not definitely not complaining, but like just some of the realities of what we're dealing with on a weekly basis or whatever. And I've had dudes who I think are pretty strong dudes like be like, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I'd want to do that. So I also try to give people a fair representation of the sacrifices that have to be made, unless you just, you know, rolling in money. I mean, I'm sure everybody's journey is different, but the way that we've went about this, I feel like is fairly standard to the younger American population or maybe world population that's trying to become more self-sustainable and build a farm from the ground up. But there are there's just lots of challenges. You know, we still do our laundry at the laundromat in town every couple weeks. Is, you know, we have had one thing that you can't get around in most areas of the country is dealing with your waste. So like everybody just says, oh, why don't you just go dig an outhouse? But, you know, like if you're really trying to, that's one state organization, at least in Idaho, that's got a pretty firm grip on what you can and can't do. And so we've had a porta potty service for the last couple of years straight, you know, well, 3 years straight now, where yeah, man, it's like being at a festival or whatever. It's not that bad because it's only just a couple of us, but those are some of the yeah, that's the latrine, and that's the sacrifices that we've chosen to make to be able to do this. And but with like I said, with every project that we complete, it's there's always joy in the completion of the project because it's all really hard work, physical labor to get these things accomplished. But the thing I sort of lose track of until the project is like just a couple days away from finishing out is, holy shit, like our life is going to be different tomorrow than it was 2 days ago after this is complete. And so once again, back to that, like super working dirt under your nails on your own project, on your own land, building something from the ground up, the gratification that comes from that, and then the triumph that you get to feel from all the new levels that you achieve. Those are unmatched in town, in my experience. There's nothing like that you might just have to fix the city's shit, or fix a broken pipe, or fix something that's been there since way before you bought the place, but you're not really you're not building something from the ground up that you then get to experience the fruits of your labors for like decades to come. And that has brought more satisfaction and joy to at least me for doing the projects. And I know Heather just the same with all of her passions on the property. But yeah, man, the joys are I hate to drag the Art and War podcast down to a wholesome level, but the joys.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it.
You're dragging the Art and War podcast up to a wholesome level. We live for the wholesome stuff, and
yes.
we roll around in the mud a little bit too much.
No. Well, I just yeah, man, it's just hard to put into words the joy that comes from those accomplishments, and they really are like, they're like 100-year-old joys that we just haven't, that as Americans, or whatever you want to say, as humans, we haven't on a large scale experienced those in so long, and I've never experienced them in my lifetime. So they're unmatched, but the sacrifices just are in a lot of respects are unmatched as well. So I like this little trailer, but I can't wait to see it go. I nail my, like, I'm tripping over shit constantly trying to cook nice meals in a little 12-inch wide walk space, and propane is a normal part of life. You're going to go haul propane constantly, or like every couple weeks, whatever you have storage for. But just stuff that probably was more a norm 50 to 100 years ago is sort of the way of life, and I just never realized that the simplicity can bring so much happiness to a fuck up like me's life.
No, it's something like we're so close to it, and yet so divorced from, like, our grandparents or our great grandparents. They often speak of having had such like rich upbringings, even though that the old adage, oh, I walked uphill both ways to school, and all of that kind of shit. Like, oh, life was so difficult. My grandparents would tell me all the time about how they had to use a toilet that was outside. Like in like what would have been like the 50s or something, like not that long ago. But like things were a lot more simple back then even, and it's like, even though that's how they were living, like their lives just felt a lot richer, because everything wasn't like, though everything is more accessible in a lot of ways and life is a lot easier, it's oddly not happier, which is such a weird thing that so many people, like, it's like an internal sense, but they can't quite put a finger on that being the root cause. Like the commoditization of everything. Like, if you don't want to spend extra time on something, simply pay someone for the convenience. Like, simply just have things happen for you.
Right.
And you just remove all of the effort and struggle from a person's life. And then you're like, they're wondering why they're sad when all of these like relatively difficult things to access and to enjoy, just a few decades ago in our grandparents' lifetimes or great grandparents,
right?
They're at your fingertips. Why aren't you like 100 or 1,000 times more happier than them? It's like, where is to sound like an old man? Like, where is the pride in the lifestyle that we've been taught is so much better? Like,
Yeah, but if you look at the numbers too, yeah, it's suicide, depression, everything up
Yep.
has been trending up for years, if not decades.
Yes.
It's I think
but
there's a
life's
reason
never
behind
been
that.
easier? Question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No.
Yeah, question mark, TM TM.
Yeah. No. No. It's that's all extremely true. I love it, man. I've said it a dozen times already during our talk today, but I just wouldn't trade back any of the comforts that we had for a single day worth of thinking I was going to lose part of this, because uh, you really do feel rich without much, and definitely without anything monetary. uh, but rich with real life, and that it's only getting
Yeah.
better. We we're always working on some sort, like, I will say that some of the balance parts of it are like little luxury things. Like um, we have an outdoor clawfoot bathtub that's got a propane instant water heater that heats that thing up, and um, any if you've never taken a hot soak on the side of a wooded mountain in the evening time, like, those things will offset the little tiny corner shower that you got to retreat to when you need to get cleaned up and run to town, or whatever the case may be. But so we're trying our best to create a little bit of balance with the slight luxuries, but they're still entirely different than anything that we could have experienced in town. So un, unreal. I I'm about to begin teaching some sort of like planning the modern homestead community classes here in the region. Just be,
I think it's a great idea.
yeah, I kind of, I think I've got so much to learn, of course, but I just the few years that we've been doing this, and how we stumbled across this property, and we really didn't have a lot of our preparedness thoughts in order when we found the ground, and we've really just worked with what we found that we bought after we bought it. And no regrets. We're blessed, and we've got such a just a slice of perfectness here. Um, but there's plenty that we've learned along the way that we may have known differently had we been down this road previously. And I think that I just can't believe how many people I encounter on a normal basis that we're a couple years out. That's the common. In 2 years we're gonna be buying raw land, and we're gonna be starting over. So everybody's a lot of the people that I encounter in this online homestead movement world are all in the dream phase still. They're a couple years from buying the place and beginning the journey. And
I'm raising my hand right now.
yeah, no, and absolutely, I think that's awesome. I have the utmost respect for all of those people. I just want to, if there's anything that I've learned here in the purchasing of the land and the things to sort of keep as forefront on the priority list, I'm just going to try to bulk that into a couple hours for at least the local community that can make it, and hopefully help people not to make mistakes that they wouldn't have known they were even making before they make them. So we'll see how that goes, but we are doing our best to try to give back on what we experienced out of this awesome journey so far.
I think it's still somewhat early days into this. Like, homesteading is really blowing up, as you can see from your social media alone. But like, I think this wider movement, I think we're still very early into like the early adopter stage of what will I my theory is this will one day once again be kind of what American life
Yeah,
is. I think out of like, you know, whether it's harsh realities, practicality, being the only option left, whatever it might be. Like right now, I think the best thing you can do for yourself, regardless of if if the grid clicks off
Yep.
or whatever awfulness or none of it happens, like regardless whether you're building a life raft for yourself and your family or not, like I think this is going to become the standard.
Yeah.
I can totally see that. I mean, everything in this world has been cyclic, and man, we're just like you said, man. There's so much depression. There's there's way too much suicide. And in the background, you see this banner that says life is easier now than ever before.
Yeah.
The math just doesn't add up. I you know, I think that we all kind of talked about it this winter, but I I tend to get sort of I'm in love with life if I can be outside, and when the bad weather hits, which in we're we're decently lucky where we're at. We're at a fairly low elevation, so our snow level is still um, not extreme here on our homestead property, but it's a lot to get. It's a lot to be locked up in a small little RV through those colder winter months while you can't really be working on these projects and exerting yourself physically as much as you wished you could. So
Yeah.
this last winter was probably the hardest for me since we left our old life. But yeah, definitely working on trying to circumvent that side of it. So even with this hard work and physical, you know, building your own dream stuff, it still sinks in. You know, this sort of human issues that we all face, whether we're living in the town or in the mountains, whichever it may be.
Oh, winter depression is very real. I mean, especially as you just put it, like when you're putting in so much physical effort, and I hope all of our listeners know exercise is one of the best cures you can have for
Yeah,
depression. But like if you're out there working your ass off when the sun's shining, and then you have to just come to a pause, and you're not making progress on the property of your dreams, you're not getting the exercise, it's cold out, you're stuck inside. Oh my god, my winter depression, I'm not like, like for anyone who doesn't experience winter
yep,
depression, like bless you.
yeah, right.
That's awesome. But like for me, like you said, I've had depression in the past and stuff, but nowadays I love life. I love living. I love doing my thing. But winter comes around, I'm just like fucking hell. Like
It's hard.
it's not it's not like it's not like hopelessness. It's just sad,
Yeah, yeah,
just like
Yeah.
down and like kind of in pause. Like I kind of wish I could just eat the biggest meal of my life, climb into a cave and hibernate,
yeah. Wake,
come out
wake.
when it's sunny again.
Yeah,
That'd be killer.
yeah, yeah. I feel the same. I'm. It's always been sort of a roller coaster for me throughout the winters. I've always known that I need to try to really put effort into staying active and staying head above water. But just living in these like small spaces through that same sort of so yeah, just not having much of an option to get out of the same little visual scene um, of a small little tiny camper trailer is it just really. And then this last winter for us in Idaho, um, unusually warm for the most part. So what would normally be snowfall and frozen for a couple of months was more like Seattle winter, like rain constant. So um,
Oh, nice.
it was really ridiculous. Like our property was once again, like I mentioned before, a lot of it was tore up from dirt work and water trenches and water line trenches and all this. So all the projects were sort of nice dirt soil in the fall, but as soon as all this rain, it just put like you couldn't really work on anything because it was just a big mud pit for a number of months. And
Yeah.
um, so yeah, one thing to be aware of is the winter blues if you're going to be locking yourself up in an
Yeah.
RV to do the homesteading thing for a number of years before you're ready to build your house, because that's been been one of the bigger challenges, seasonal challenges anyway. Other than that, it's all it's literally living a dream for us.
Oh man, and when you finish that sauna's still an ongoing project, right?
Oh man, yeah. So
That's gonna be badass in
yeah,
winter.
I can't wait. I've just been waiting. Actually, just yesterday, the chimney kit was delivered. That was kind of the holdup right now on.
Chimney kit.
Yeah, it's sort of a it's in essence it'll be sort of a barrel style sauna built in a round cavern, or a round structure, and um, the sauna stove that I got, they make their own chimney kits for their stoves, and this particular one is like kind of got a curved seal so that when it goes through the roof and then tries to seal onto the roof, it sort of matches the curved diameter of the circular structure. So um, I I'm ready to bury the rest of the sauna, but I needed to get this chimney installed through the roof and out the top of the roof, and then before we could cover the whole rest of the structure with earth. But um, it's going to be awesome, man. I've got I've mentioned in some of my other content, but I've got a brand new portable sawmill that I am just about ready to get set up, which will be a whole nother level of self sufficiency. It's um, I'll
Hmm.
be milling red cedar lumber to build out, to do all the finish work, to build out the interior of the sauna. Um, which I've never done. Shit, I've never,
That's badass.
yeah, I've never
That is.
never ran a sawmill, never been around one. Lots of information to learn from online, but I've got the equipment sitting here. I've just been waiting. I shouldn't say I've been waiting. It's been waiting for its turn in line to come up to get set up properly. So yeah, that and and along those same lines of creating our own lumber, building our own, or creating our own lumber out of raw materials. That'll be another side of the 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 giant tiny home build, is we'll be able to do so much with our own created lumber, whereas in my understanding of codes and bullshit, you're forced to use like lumber from the sort of like the big box stores. They don't approve of hand milled
I
lumber.
hate
Yeah.
that.
It's so ridiculous, man. It part of this
Yeah.
whole homesteading thing for us is a whole nother level of freedom. And when you're living that life at least 75% of your day, or 75% of the year, and then you come to some of these like little hiccups or roadblocks that you realize, fuck, like I have to feel like I'm a kid in trouble that has to go ask his parents if he can do this or whatever. Like it just
Yeah.
sort of deflates the whole, at least for us. I mean, we're so freedom driven, and the feeling of freedom driven, that it is really, it feels like you're getting handcuffed a little bit to say, oh, you can't do this or you can't do it
Yeah.
that way. um, so anyway, I'm just fortunate we found loopholes and ways to work around all of that shit so far, and not trying to brag enough to get in trouble for any of it, but I'm stoked that the answers have fallen into our laps. And um, yeah, that sawmill is going to be incredible, though. I'm excited to start to uh, make more progress on the underground wood fired sauna. It's going to be a trip.
You guys you're determining your own future, which is all what that was ever wanted for people living in this country, and you guys are doing it to the fullest, which is like I love seeing it. Like
Yeah.
there, you know, there is nothing more fulfilling to me than Americans living as intended, like actually doing the freedom thing without like the people who wrote the codes that restrict you from using your own lumber
Right.
are were probably doing that within buildings built from lumber that was unregulated at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the
It's like just maddening and insane, but
no,
that's the
it's the
world.
world we're living in, and it's yeah, man. I the best advice I have for a lot of folks is just don't ask. You know, you can try your best. You can try your best to work within the parameters that but do what do what you feel confident and feel good about in your heart. You know what, like, are you hurting anybody? Are you trying to hurt anybody? Are you being malicious? Like, none of that shit is an issue. But you're absolutely right. The irony with the codes being written in places that were, you know, grandfathered in because they were built before these bullshit rules existed.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I'm excited for the future. It's going to be. It's already been an extremely busy. I'm already calling it summer. I'm not sure if it's actually. I don't think it's actually summer yet. But
No, I think we're about like a third into summer,
oh well, there you go. See,
something like that. There,
I joke.
really depends on where you're at.
Yeah,
Down in the south, we're like, oh, it's summer.
yeah. Well, I joke often. I've actually kind of got my dad laughing and convinced that this is maybe a better way of life, but I don't ever know what day it is. I don't. I, I,
Hell
I,
yeah.
I, and I'm,
I think that sounds
yeah.
awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
my days are all busy as hell, and I'm sweating and bleeding and doing all the stuff, but I literally don't often know what actual day of the week it is, and for a long time he just shook his head like, "You, what the fuck? How did I raise you?" And now I tell him,
Gone feral.
yeah, I'm like, Dad, it's the best feeling in the world to not really care what actual day it is. Like, if you don't have the obligations that make you need to know the day of the week. So now he forgets what day it is, and he's told me a couple times he's laughed to himself and in on his own in private about how now he's getting a kick out of forgetting what day it is. So that should be the goal for all of us.
Absolutely. No, you instead of working for any particular person, you work for yourself above anyone, which is and your partner,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is incredible. That's as it should be.
absolutely, man.
Well, gents, we're right around a little after 2 hours. But
Yeah.
Mark, was there anything else you wanted to say to the people before we start to get out of here?
I don't, gosh, I don't think so, man. I've pretty much nailed it, and all the sacrifices and the joys. That's the main thing, you know, is just the two dichotomies of homesteading, and yeah, I'm pleased, man.
I
Oh
love
yeah.
to see it.
No, really appreciate you you
Yeah.
joining and sharing with our listenership who, it's a massively varied audience, but I think a lot of people are starting to see that this is one of the best opportunities for a healthy and happier future. If you want it, like
Yeah.
if you can put in the time and roll up your sleeves and make it happen, it's every single homesteader I've talked to and visited their property, like the happiest, healthiest people I've met. It's amazing.
It is, and it's
Uh,
from my perspective, the amount of interest from folks that aren't quite there yet is just like, it's humbling. The you can feel the desire for change in so many. I'm going to say younger people, but I really don't even know ages. I just think that the
yeah.
the amount of feedback that I get through social platforms about, we're on our way, we're a couple years out, this is our dream, I can't wait to start this, to do what you're doing. Um, there's just there's a big change in the air, and I'm stoked to be living during it, because I think we're going to see people experience some real, actual, like, true goodness, joy, and I don't know really how to put it into words, but I just think it's cool that we're going to be able to witness this part of American culture shift and into something that is much more gratifying and creates happiness on a deeper level.
100%, man. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I agree.
Well,
before we wrap up, is there anywhere that people could find you? Or I know that you and your wife started a small brand in terms of like.
Yeah.
buy their products. They're nice.
You can find any of our handmade homestead goods at modernruralcivilian.com, and basically you can search that same name on any social network and find what I'm up to on pretty much a daily basis. So I appreciate everybody's interest in what we've got going. It still doesn't seem real, but I try to document our journey the best way I know how, and it's just I'm an open book when it comes to my online life. I'm trying to prove that I'm not that fuck up that I was so many years ago. So everybody seems to be enjoying the journey with us. So that makes me smile and happy.
I'm glad. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, one last thing before we go, Mark. We have to ambush you for some dad advice for our listeners. You've already given plenty of great advice, but if you've got any parting words for the people out there.
Boy, I am an actual dad. I have a 12-year-old little girl that is my heart and soul. When I get to be with her, she's just so I'm all I've got experience in is being a girl dad, and it scares the shit out of me. But the biggest thing is in my world is just being present when it comes to the moments that like the real true joy filled moments in your life, but so many of us are like stretched thin between our other obligations, whether it be dicking with our phone or watching something. Just be present when it comes to those pure moments, because they'll definitely be something that you wish you had if you don't while they're there for you.
I agree.
Massive.
Anyways, before we wrap up, I know he said one last thing, but I'm going to insert my own thing.
One more thing.
More thing,
Yeah,
Jackie. Like 5 people are going to get this reference, and I don't give a shit.
I grew up on that shit.
Did you know that Jackie Chan did not do his own voice?
What the fuck?
I feel very betrayed now. In my adulthood. But one last thing, I'm going to be doing another range cleanup sometime.
Oh yeah.
Tentatively early July. That's actually where Mark and I met. He came out for last year's, which I unfortunately only gave everyone 24 hours notice for. So Mark,
very Nathan.
Yeah. So this time, this is
good.
me holding myself accountable for range cleanup in early July. This time there will hopefully be barbecue.
Oh, awesome.
Just I'll bring out a little barbecue and we can have some stuff. It's a hell of a lot less garbage this year. Maybe we'll do the upper area, but
yeah.
Thanks to everyone who came out last year, it's stayed pretty clean. So this will be like a community range day and cleanup. Sorry, you were saying?
No. I've been out there once or twice since then, and it's definitely always stayed a lot nicer than when we found it that day. So
I agree.
I'm stoked that you do stuff like that, Nathan. It was awesome that you set that first date, because I wouldn't have got a chance to come cross paths with you, and stoked that we've become friends since then. So I'm down for the July date. I agree. For sure.
I am excited. More on that date soon. And I agree. Thanks for coming out, and everyone who did make it that last year couldn't have done it without you. Yeah,
man, that was an awesome day. That I think if I remember right, some officials or something drove by and kind of let us know that had that possibly not happened, they were about ready to pull the pin on letting the public use that area. So it was like a little bit of synchronicity working in the background, because we got we kind of got some opinions swayed at the very last moment, I think, from what that guy said.
I think so too. Yeah, it's the local park ranger or something like that.
Yeah, good stuff.
But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for listening to The Art and War. We'll be back next week with more unfiltered autism, I guess.
Yeah, well, anyway, once again, Mark, thank you so much. Mark Bonnalie like the shotgun of modern rural civilian. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. You guys have a great weekend.
Okay, bye.
Oh my god.